Serious, what was your weirdest or creepiest online experience? A few months ago, I wasn't aware that scammers could send emails with your password on it, until recently. It was near midnight and I was doing online school, since I worked the entire day. I then decided to check my email and my spam folder, cause it's sometimes funny to see what ends up there. Well, I found an email that said my password as the first word, for some random site, but I was unsure which one it was. After that they said that they had a video of me having a fun time, after they secretly turned my camera on. And they then went on to explain they got my password from a porn site, and complimented my tastes. They then demanded a $1,200 plus PayPal transaction, and that if I didn't do it by midnight, they'd spread it to everyone I know, and across the internet. I deleted the email, and was literally shaking. Then after a talk with a local police department, they told me that it was a scam, and that other people call for the same fears. So I just deleted it and so far nothing has happened. Definitely scared the shit out of me, as I'm used to scam calls but not emails. I made sure to change my password on everything and have two-factor authentication, and I don't even have an account for porn. Stay safe, those scammers are persistent and will say anything to get petty money. I had an amusing experience once. I got a random message saying, "Hi Annie, it was great to meet you last night. You were quite the kisser." I'm taken aback, as my name is Annie but I hadn't been out anywhere. So I reply saying, "I'm sorry, you've got the wrong number." He replied apologizing. Then about an hour later the number texted again, and said, "Are you sure you are not Annie?" I said I am called Annie. But I didn't kiss anyone last night, I was at home. So I asked where he thought he had met me, and he named a club that was in my local city. I was so confused. Curiosity got the better of me and I actually called him, and we had a chat. It turned out he had kissed a girl called Annie and they ended up getting separated in the club, and he wanted her number. He said he got my number from her friend that he had seen coming out of a toilet. I figured it must be someone I knew that had another friend called Annie, and she gave the wrong Annie's number. He described what she looked and I narrowed it down to 3 people. I sent out a text to them and sure enough it had been one of them. I asked her to check with the other Annie if she wanted her number passing on, and she did. I passed the number on. A couple of weeks later I caught up with this friend, I actually worked with her, who said they had had a couple of dates, it was going well. That was my good deed. Even if it was a bit weird. I used to play a lot of Habbo Hotel when I was a young and extremely gullible kid. One day, a dude by the age of 16, in his own words, started talking to me. He asked me for my Skype almost right off the bat, and me being the gullible kid I was, gave it to him. He then asked if he could call me on Skype. One agreed, still as oblivious as ever. He told me his camera and MIC were broken, and that he'd have to continue writing in the chat. Another red flag that completely flew over my head. I had my camera and MIC on though, and we just chatted for a bit, before he told me he was getting horny. I just answered that maybe he should wank then, honestly, how was I still not understanding the situation, and he agreed. I was about to end the call, but he insisted I'd stay on, so I did, WHY. After he was done, we ended the call. I was oblivious enough to agree to 2 more calls, he wanked in all 3. I'm before realizing anything. During the last call, he asked me to open my mouth so that he could pretend to, shoot his load in there. Lucky for me, at that moment my mum called me for dinner. After that, I started to feel uncomfortable about the whole situation, so I blocked him, deleted my Skype account, and made a new one. I was 12 at the time, and it never occurred to me how serious the situation truly was until I was like 15 to 16. Still feel icky about it sometimes. When I lived in a dorm my freshman year of college, there was a creepy dude who was always hitting on the girls. At first his messages were exactly what you'd expect. Like, "I'll treat you right girl, and you ain't never gone see a man like me." But after a few rejections, he started sending nonsense. Inka Finka Do was one LD get a lot, and variations thereof. I blocked him, but he created new accounts. Then one day he said he was going to come fuck me, and I was going to like it. I screenshot the hell out of that and reported it to the authorities. Turns out, I wasn't the only girl he'd been bothering. He got kicked out of school, was banned from being near the girls' dorm, and the last I heard he was a delivery guy for Papa John's Pizza because he couldn't get a better job with a collective restraining order placed on him. Not exactly my experience, however. I witnessed the whole thing. In 7th grade, I had a friend who had recently gotten into an online relationship with this guy whom she'd never met. They met via some chat site online. Anyways, this friend of mine was not the brightest, and decided to be in a relationship with this so-called 14-year-old boy. I remember her showing me his Instagram profile, and it was super sketchy. Dude only had like 6 followers and there were 0 pictures of himself on the account. Regardless of this, my friend insisted he was the one. So fast forward about a week after these two began their relationship. She invites me to her house to hang out, so I accept. We are hanging out, doing 13-year-old girl things. She then asks me to leave the room for a sec, and I ask why. She turns red and insists she just needs to do something. After 5 minutes or so, she allows me to come back into her room, and I ask what this was about. She proceeds to burst into tears and simply hands me her phone. I read the messages and it turns out this sick fuck, who I highly doubt was actually a 14-year-old boy, had been blackmailing her for naked pictures. He said he was going to kill himself if she didn't send him the pictures, and once he had them he threatened to leak them if she didn't send him more. Fave 2. Once I was on Omegle, using just the chat feature, no camera, and this dude kept typing random letters and strings of numbers. I stayed on just to see where this would go. He then started saying some demonic things, and that they are in my house. I figured it was all a joke, until he said, "You're sitting in your room, watching TV. I believe it's that one YouTube channel that will die." I was in my room, watching Eunice Annis. I left that chat so quickly. Then for the second one. I am a listener on the website 7 Cups, where people can talk about their problems judgment-free. One dude started talking to me casually, like it wasn't a therapy site. One asked him what he came onto the site for, and he responded to get freaky. Now, it's policy that I can't just end a chat, weird or not, so I asked if he wouldn't do that. He obliged and continued to talk to me casually. Then I said I had to go because I was feeling uncomfortable, and he started typing with caps lock on "No. You can't go. I can only talk to you, insert my name, you're the only one who turns me on." The weird part? I never told him my name. Some guy was harassing my friend, who was a relatively popular cosplayer in our community. He kept taking weird pictures of her at cons and stalking her around town and such. One of those guys the cosplay is not consent is targeted to. One started fighting back, calling him names and a coward and such, daring him to target me instead. I was young and thought I was pretty invincible. He took the bait and started threatening both of us with bodily harm, which was enough to get him permabanned from just about every con in our area. A few months after all this, I showed up at a con just to pick up said friend and my sister. While I was waiting at the door, I saw him. I knew him because he had a couple photos online we submitted so that the con people would know what he looked like. He was hanging around outside the convention center, unable to get in, just generally acting like a pissy idiot. We made eye contact. I don't think he knew who I was. He probably thought my friend's white knight was some big scary guy, not a skinny white girl still in her POM's uniform picking up her friend. It was chilling to see him there, to know that even though he couldn't go into the con, he was still around. He hasn't bothered her since and I think he's still blacklisted. Hopefully he learned his lesson and didn't just move on to harassing someone else. Not the worst, but when I was 16 I had just gotten a headset for gaming with a microphone and was starting to creep out if my shell just a smidge. Had gotten a game called Day, standalone, didn't have a good grasp on the controls and emotes, and couldn't type fast enough to try and avoid potential hostilities with other players. So I decide to give voice input a whirl. First flippin' day in game like that. I'm loot in a building, well-armed guy and his friends approach it. I preempt and say something like, "Hey, I'm here, non-hostile, y'all can have the loot in there. I'll be on my way, just don't want any fuss." Foolishly, one had the gall to use a female avatar and have the voice of a little girl. 'Cause you know, I kinda was. They tied and stripped my character and started ring a rape scenario, demanding I start moaning before I Alt plus F4 ed the fuck out. As a kid, maybe 7 or 8, I was on this website, and there was a video of a guy talking popped up, but it was on mute. Anyway, I started scrolling down the website, and the video guy held out his hands like, "Whoa, stop," so I stopped scrolling and was kinda like, "What?" And he started pointing up. So I'm kinda thinking, is this guy live, and how does he know I've scrolled down? After I scrolled up, he indicated to stop again, and kept talking. I took the video off mute, and he started talking and addressing me. I didn't say anything, but kinda pointed at myself like, "Are you talking to me?" And he said yes. Then I realized the webcam had been turned on and this guy could see me. I hadn't granted permissions or anything. I felt a bit freaked out, closed the website and went to tell my mum. When she came over and revisited the website, the guy was gone and it was just a normal website. We got rid of the webcam after that. It had creeped me out. I'm not gonna go into depth about it, but my mom got in legal trouble when I was a kid due to essentially a corrupt local politician scapegoating her and a few other business owners for a nice headline for his upcoming re-election. She was forced to take on the $500,000 tax liens from all previous owners of her business property, and we couldn't get a day in court to even show that it was illegal to do that. She had to do everything through cash, otherwise they'd have taken her money out of her bank. They forced her to make her lease payments out to the special prosecutor for the case, and when we finally got our motion for discovery through, they basically just said, "We never told her to do that. If she was sending money to us, it was because she wanted us to have it." I went on a forum to complain about it, get some kind of reconciliation about it all, and I can't recall the details, but this person knew way too much about the case and left vaguely concealed threats to me. Like, "You'd better watch your back, bad things happen to bad people" kind of shit. This combined with the police following my school bus and my mom every day, strange vehicles pulling up in our driveway in the middle of nowhere while I was alone at home, for the hour my mom wouldn't be there, and a lot of other shady shit ended with my mom dropping her court case against the state for our own sanity and likely safety. My mom's own lawyer even said, and I quote, "It'd be cheaper for them to kill you than to let you get your day in court," and advised her to carry a gun at all times. Yeah. Oh, and this was in the US about 14 years ago. The You Jason in Hell and Carl Harold story. TLDR for both. You Jason in Hell. Guy's suspect's wife is cheating and goes to our relationship advice for help. After confronting his wife, she plays it off. After a while, he asks for a divorce. While sleeping, the wife kills their 2 kids and then slits her own throat. The police call is creepy as hell. Carl Harold. Guy ran his own computer programming subreddit a few years ago. He was caught by the police for making his own child P***N with his 9-year-old son. When my YouTube channel took off, I had a creepy stalker. At first it made me feel like a celebrity, but then she said she was going to fly to meet me, so I gave her my friend's old address, real address, but far as fuck away from me, and blocked her emails. Also used to chat online with this one guy I met while playing a really niche game, i.e., old game with only 5 to 6 people on the servers at any one time. He was cool to talk to, if a bit too open at times to a complete stranger. I had just met this guy and he was already sending photos of his newborn daughter and stuff, but whatever, he was happy, so I guess NBD. Anyways, hadn't chatted with him for a while until one day he messages me telling me he's celebrating getting out of prison for strangling his wife. Needless to say, I didn't chat with him again after that. I manage a Discord server for a mobile game I play. A month or 2 ago, I deleted something a user said because it was inaccurate info. I wasn't mean about it, just said I was going to delete it and why. Someone DM'd me later that day and said she wanted to express concern about something. She showed me screenshots of another Discord server and there's the user, raging over me deleting that comment, calling me a fat ass and disgusting, and a picture of me. Note that I didn't reveal my real name anywhere on the server, as far as I know, and even if I had, all my stuff on FB is locked down. And that picture hadn't been uploaded by me but by my husband, who also has their stuff totally locked down. I googled my name just to see if that's how they found it, nothing. I still don't know how they found that picture, but it made me feel really vulnerable. I guess one thing that still nags at me about it is what if that user is on my or my husband's friends list and I just don't realize it's the same person. I had an online buddy who befriended a guy that would come into Discord and ask for relationship advice, which this premise is already hilarious because I've been married for 10 years and my buddy hasn't been laid in like 10 years. The guy was the closest thing to an incel I've ever experienced in my life. I thought incels were like unicorns that only existed on small communities in the internet, but this guy was real. He told me of girls he was interested in, and when they stopped responding, he was going to hack them and then get their personal address. Then he would show up to their house with a boombox playing a song they talked about like this was some sort of rom-com, and her panties would come flying off. It was truly some insane shit. I didn't know where he lived or even his first name, so I couldn't do anything but try to tell him to not do it. He was hell-bent on doing it. It was a pretty fucked situation. I'm still not sure if he did it or not. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Please like and subscribe for more videos like this one.